Hey kiddos, today we're going to be talking about drawing conclusions. It's not something we've done this year, so it's really important that you pay attention. You're going to need a piece of paper and a pencil or a whiteboard and a marker to follow along. So drawing conclusions is different in reading than typical things we've done. And the reason that is because drawing conclusions, the answer is not directly in the story. Most of the time, they may ask a question like, what day was this person born? And you can go find it in the story. Well, drawing conclusions is not like that. Drawing conclusions is where they give you clues and you have to figure it out. So when you are drawing conclusions, it's kind of like you're a detective. But again, these answers are not going to be exactly in the story. You have to be a detective. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, kiddos. So what does it mean to draw a conclusion? Well, we are going to learn this week that it means to take information that you have and make an educated guess. So we're going to get all the clues that they give us, and we are going to make an educated guess about it. Now, what's an educated guess? An educated guess means we're taking those clues and we're guessing basically about what they're trying to talk about. But it's not just like a typical guess, like whatever you think. You have to use those clues, and those clues are what make it educated. The answer will never be in the story. Again, it's so important that you read your stories twice when we're doing things like drawing a conclusion, because if you don't understand the story, you will not be able to make an educated guess. All right, kiddos, so I'm going to read this story to you. You just need to follow along on your screen, and then we're going to draw a conclusion about this story. So it says, it seems like it was taking forever for the food to come. Brandon played tic-tac-toe on his napkin with his sister. Then he made a pattern out of the different sugar packets. So it says, what conclusion can you draw about where Brandon is? Now notice in this story, it never once told us where Brandon was. But we need to take some clues. What kind of things do we know about where he is? Well, we know he played tic-tac-toe on his napkin. And we also know that he made a pattern out of sugar packets. So where would a place be that has napkins and sugar packets? And also we know that it says it took forever for the food to come. So it gave us lots and lots of clues there. So let's look at our choices. It says A, in a restaurant, B, at the dinner table, or C, in the school lunchroom. So on your piece of paper, please make a choice of where you think he is. Is he A, in a restaurant, B, at the dinner table, or C, in the school lunchroom? All right, so your answer there is in a restaurant. It didn't say that Brandon was in a restaurant, but we can conclude that if we go to a restaurant, our food does sometimes take forever. Also, we would have napkins that we could play games on. And also, a lot of times, there's some packets of sugar on the table for people's drinks. So we have to take those clues and make an educated guess. Remember, a conclusion is an educated guess. Let's try another one. During recess, Brittany whispered something into Caitlin's ear. Both girls looked at Sarah and started to laugh. Sarah walked away with tears in her eyes. So why is Sarah crying? In this story, it never said why Sarah was crying. We have to use our clues to figure out why she's crying. So let me read the story again. During recess, Brittany whispered something into Caitlin's ear. Both girls looked at Sarah and started to laugh. Sarah walked away with tears in her eyes. So why is she crying? A, she hurt herself. B, she thinks the girls are making fun of her. Or C, she is a crybaby. So what in that story points to the right answer? Are there any clues in there that says she hurt herself? Are there any clues that she thinks the girls are making fun of her? Are there any clues that she is a crybaby? Well, one of the clues is that she thinks the girls are making fun of her. Why is that? Well, they were whispering, and both girls looked at her and started to laugh. Those are both clues. Remember, drawing conclusions is not going to tell you the exact answer in the story. You have to find evidence in the story. All right, kiddos, let's try another one. Kylie woke up feeling itchy and hot. There were little red spots all over her body. No school for you, said Mom. What conclusion can you draw about why Kylie isn't going to school? Now, in the story, it doesn't tell us why. We have to use our clues about why she wouldn't be going to school. So let's look at our choices. She overslept, it's Saturday, or she has chicken pox. So which one of those would be the answer? You must use your clues. Is there anything in that story that tells you she overslept? Is there anything in the story that tells you it's Saturday? And is there anything in the story that says she has chicken pox? Well, your correct answer is C. She has chicken pox. Chicken pox are bumps that you get on your skin, and they're really super itchy. So all of those point to she has chicken pox. Let's do another one. Julie put on her sweater and went outside. The sun was shining, but the grass was still wet from the recent rain. Julie stopped to look at the bright red tulips, which were just starting to bloom. What conclusion can you draw about what season it is? So nowhere in the story did it tell us what season it is. A season is winter, fall, summer, and spring. So nowhere in there did it say it is summer or it is spring. We must use our words from our story to decide those things. So our choices are summer, spring, or autumn. The word autumn is another word for fall. So which one could it be by the clues in the story? Julie put on her sweater and went outside. The sun was shining, but the grass was still wet from the recent rain. Julie stopped to look at the bright red tulips, which were starting to bloom. Well, one thing it can't be is summer. We don't put sweaters on in the summer, so it's definitely not summer. So that leaves spring and autumn. What clues from the story tells you if it's spring or autumn? Well, the correct answer here is spring. And the reason it's spring is number one, it rains a lot in the spring. And number two, it has the word bloom. The word bloom means to open. Flowers begin to open in the spring. In autumn, flowers begin to die. So that is why it is spring. Let's try another one. What does it mean to draw a conclusion? On your piece of paper, what does it mean to draw a conclusion? Well, what did you write? What does it mean to draw a conclusion? To draw a conclusion means to make an educated guess, meaning that I take my information and I guess about what the right answer is. But I have to collect all my clues before I can make a guess. Collecting clues means educated guess. Let's do another one. Trevor stood very still. He had never been so close to a deer before. Then he heard loud footsteps and his brother calling his name. The deer bolted into the woods. What conclusion can you draw about why the deer bolted into the woods? Now, it never said why the deer bolted into the woods. We have to use our clues from the story. So let's look at our choices. Our choices are A, it was afraid of Trevor. B, it heard a gunshot. Or C, it was startled by Trevor's brother. Let's read our story again and try to figure out why the deer would bolted into the woods using our clues. Trevor stood very still. He had never been so close to a deer before. Then he heard loud footsteps and his brother calling his name. The deer bolted into the woods. Well, choice A says it was afraid of Trevor. Well, that can't be the choice because it says Trevor stood very still. He never once made a noise. So that doesn't make sense. So that leaves B and C. Is there any evidence that he heard a gunshot? Or is there evidence that he was startled by Trevor's brother? What did you write on your paper? Well, your answer is C. It was startled by Trevor's brother. It never said that in the story, but we do know his brother was making loud footsteps, and we also know his brother was calling his name. So that is how we figure out drawing conclusions. We use our clues. All right, kiddos, let's do another one. Miles could see the ball coming towards him. He backed up a few steps, put his glove up, and caught it. Everyone started cheering. His teammates ran to the outfield and carried him back on their shoulders. What conclusion can you draw about what game Miles was playing? Now, nowhere in the story does it tell us the game that he's playing, so we have to use our clues. First, let's look at our choices. Our first choice is football, our second choice is soccer, and our third choice is baseball. So what clues could you use to figure out what game he is playing? Well, it can't be football. Nowhere in here does it even talk about football or about anything about football. So that leaves soccer and baseball. Well, one thing I noticed was a glove. Only one of these sports uses gloves. I also see the word outfield. Only one of these sports uses outfield. So what answer did you write on your paper? The correct answer is baseball. Baseball uses gloves, and there's also an outfield. All right, kiddos, let's do another one. Kyle looked around in the dim light. Everything was covered in dust. It took a while, but he finally found the box labeled photos. He carried the box downstairs to his grandma, who was waiting in the kitchen. What conclusion can you draw about where Kyle is? Now, remember, a conclusion is an educated guess. In the story, it never once told us where he was. We must use our clues. Let's look at our answers and then try to figure out the answer. So our choices are in the basement, in the attic, or in the garage. Which clues would tell us where he is? Well, let's read the story again and see if we can find some clues. Kyle looked around in the dim light. Everything was covered in dust. It took a while, but he finally found the box labeled photos. He carried the box downstairs to his grandma, who was waiting in the kitchen. Well, it can't be a garage. You don't walk downstairs to get in the you don't walk downstairs to get in the garage to go back to the kitchen. So that leaves in the basement or in the attic. Well, where would there be dim light? Dim light means there's not bright light. Also, where would you keep things that are collecting dust or covered in dust? So your correct answer, what did you write on your paper? Is B, in the attic. An attic is at the top of your house. It's at the very top of the house. We usually keep things in there that we want to keep, but we don't get out very often. So they can get very dusty. Also, it says that he walked down to the kitchen. Well, if you're going to walk down, it would be the attic. If I was in the basement, I would have to walk up. So that was the clue. All right, kiddos, here's our next one. Here, kitty, kitty, called Zoe softly. The cat meowed, but refused to come closer. Zoe grabbed onto a sturdy branch above her head and climbed in a little closer. So, what conclusion can you draw about where Zoe is? Is she at the park? Is she in her house? Or is she in a tree? So, we don't know. A conclusion is where we have to make an educated guess. Remember, nowhere in this story does it tell us where she is. She could be in any of these places, but we have to use the clues. Let's read the story again. Here, kitty, kitty, called Zoe softly. The cat meowed but refused to come closer. Zoe grabbed onto a sturdy branch above her head and climbed in a little closer. So where exactly could Zoe be? Well, she's not in her house. Would you have a branch inside your house? No, that doesn't make any sense. So which one did you choose? A, B, or C? The correct answer is C. She is in a tree trying to get her cat out of the tree. All right, so on your paper, what does it mean to draw a conclusion? Well, remember that a conclusion is making an educated guess. Remember, the exact answer is never in the story for drawing conclusions. You must collect your data or your clues and make an educated guess. All right, kiddos, we are going to be working on drawing conclusions for the next 2 weeks. Please make sure that you are really paying attention during these videos because drawing conclusions can be super hard. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.